All right, everybody can hear me now. Should I start? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll jump in. Technology is always complicated, but thank you for having me here tonight. I'm excited to talk to your bird club. It was kind of fun to tune into your meeting and hear all the birds you're seeing recently. Send them up here to New Hampshire. We're getting some migrants, but we need more. But raptors are definitely moving. I've been seeing a lot the last couple of weeks in between all the rain we're getting. I am excited to talk to you all about raptor migration. This is a great time of year to jump into this. Since we're seeing so much spring migration, there's a lot of sites that are already counting. April is a big month, especially the last half of April for hawk migration. So I'm going to give you a little background about what we do at the Hawk Migration Association. I can um, talk about raptor monitoring and kind of the evolution of it, how it all came to be. A lot of it happened in your state, and then what we've learned from all these numbers that we're getting from Hawkwatch sites. So I'll kind of touch on trend graphs and how some of these species are doing. So we love raptors at the Hawk Migration Association. Just for starters, just to give you an idea of what migration monitoring is and why we do it, in case some of you might be hawk watchers and some of you maybe not as familiar with it. So basically, it's counting birds from a fixed location. Um, so anywhere raptors are migrating, it can be your backyard, it could be along ridge lines and river valleys, anywhere where raptors are funneled, any topographic north to south running ridge. And we count because it's great research. It's gives us a great look at an understanding of overall ecology of raptors, how they move, their populations. Raptors are great indicators of how overall health of an ecosystem is doing. For anyone who's ever been at a hawk watch with a child or even with grown-ups and you've seen, a close merlin or a bald eagle fly overhead, you know that it can be an incredible education tool as well, and just an easy way to hook people um, on birding. And it's totally fun and addictive. I definitely caught the bug about 20 something years ago, and I'm addicted for sure. So as Lois mentioned, we are the Hawk Migration Association now. So this just happened this year. We were known as HMANA for the last 50 years. And we decided since there are monitoring sites outside of North America now, all through Central America and into South America, we wanted to pick a more appropriate name that's more inclusive. So we are now the Hawk Migration Association. I'm still in the process of kind of renaming everything on our website. But we also chose a broadwing hawk instead of a golden eagle for our logo, which is just a little bit more representative of the Americas. So we are kind of a support organization for the Raptor Monitoring Network. HMA, we don't have a home hawk watch. We don't have a headquarters. I am the one staff person who works full time, and we have one other part-time employee, and then we have a very large active board that's kind of spread out throughout the Americas. So we're all about raptors and hawk watching and appreciation of that. And we have been largely volunteer for the first 30 years and doing a lot of growth in the last 20 or so. I've been with HMA for 16 years. And we have these committees that are very active, and these different committees meet monthly, and so there's a lot of people doing amazing work. So we're a tiny little organization, but we're doing a lot of big things. And so we just had our 50th anniversary, and we celebrated that in Duluth, Minnesota this past fall. Hawk Ridge, as some of you may be familiar with, is an incredible birding location. So this was a great place to celebrate our 50th birthday. There were about 100 people. We spent time hawk watching. We saw rough-legged hawks. We tried to do some owling, but the weather wasn't very cooperative. But we had 3 days of just listening to a lot of great presentations on raptor research, wintering raptors, migration research, telemetry, education. It was terrific. And we have a conference usually 3 years or so. In our monitoring network, there are just about 200 or so Hawkwatch sites that are active as part of our network. So you can see a lot of them are kind of clustered here in the east, but a lot of them throughout North America and quite a few now in Central America and a few newer sites in South America. And if you look at the project history, some of these sites are quite old, Hawk Mountain being the oldest. But some of them, we get new sites joining the network every year. And some of them, some of them being volunteer-based primarily. People retire or move away or aren't able to count anymore. So we're seeing the emergence of new sites as well as some sites drop off. And part of my job is trying to help sustain counts and help them find ways to keep going. But the majority of Hawkwatch sites are volunteer based. Hawkwatch International is another nonprofit that is out west. They manage about 8 sites, and they also send their data to our database. But they're really all so different. Some of them are more data oriented and really have follow strict protocols. Others could be elementary schools that count migration for a week every year. So there's different goals of each Hawkwatch, and we support them all, whether they're really invested in data or more education driven. They all have all run a little bit differently and run by different organizations. Some of them have paid counters, and like I said, most are volunteer. And whether they're paid or volunteer, there's always camaraderie in hawk watching. I love spending time with hawk watchers, and I find them to be a very hardy bunch. There's always good discussion about the weather, about what they might see, what that next bird might be. It's a lot of fun. And they're willing to stand around in clouds and just wait for birds to come. This was taken at my home hawkwatch here in New Hampshire, Monadnock, where we're up at about 2,500 feet. And sometimes clouds come in and you just got to wait. And if you wait long enough, you can be rewarded with this view that looks north to the White Mountains and west to the mountains of Vermont. And it's just a beautiful sight. So this is a sharp-shinned hawk. And I think sometimes people, when they're not familiar with hawk watching, think this is what hawk watching is all about. And it can be wonderful, and you can see birds close up. Sometimes birds zoom right over your head and you get that amazing look. Or birds like this prairie falcon here. There's a lot of sites where you can go and get some amazing photographs. We get a lot of photographers. It's becoming more and more popular, I feel like, as more people get into photography. And we lead tours every year, and some of our tours have become more geared towards photographers, which is fun. But you don't always get those looks. Sometimes at a hawkwatch, this is what you get. And that's why it's so much fun to spend time up there with people who are used to doing it and can teach you a little bit of Raptor ID and what to look for and how the bird moves. And it's my favorite part, I think, about hawk watching is just trying to figure out by process of elimination what these birds are and not really knowing what that next bird might be. Sometimes you can see this passing over, probably not at my New Hampshire site. This was taken in Costa Rica. These are Mississippi kites heading north, but there's just an incredible opportunity to keep track of species at these hawkwatch sites. Not even necessarily all raptor species. Hawkwatchers on average spend maybe 8 hours a day up on top of mountains or river valleys or coastlines, and it's an excellent opportunity to monitor non-raptor species. So whether it's passerines and they're tracking that, submitting it to eBird, to Journey North. We send all our data from Hawk Count from our database to Journey North at the end of each year. We have a partnership with the Xerces Society, so we send dragonfly data from whichever sites collect it. Great opportunity to monitor things like pelicans, common nighthawks. That data can be shared with other databases. So it's really not all about raptors. These community scientists are collecting a lot of valuable data. This view probably you guys know, being from Pennsylvania. I think people have known for years that migration monitoring is an important way to track raptor populations, but Hawk Mountain, as you probably know this, but was the first refuge for birds of prey, following all the years of slaughter and the mass shooting of raptors in the 1920s and continued into the 30s. So the history of modern hawk watching really was initiated by Maurice Brune, who made the first ever first season-long migration count in the autumn of 1934 at Hawk Mountain. So that was the very first. Instead of shooting, he decided to count them. They were protecting the sanctuary from there on out. And one other site had followed suit the next year, Wagner's Gap, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, down in your corner in 1935. So I think from then it was slow going for a little bit, but then a few more sites were joining in the 1950s. We have West Virginia there and Mount Peter in New York in the late 50s. Hawk Ridge way up in Minnesota joined in the mid 60s. And then really by the 1970s, that's when a handful of birders in Connecticut decided that they needed some standardization. They needed to create a protocol. This was really fun and people were enjoying hawk watching, but they really wanted to make use of this data and have a way to track it. So they created green sheets. Some of the first people that were in New England Hawkwatch in Connecticut were some of the founders of HMANA in 1974. So they came out with these green sheets that would be submitted. Here's a copy of one along with the first report ever from HMANA. And you'd submit your numbers and wait all year. And then at the end of the year, they'd publish a report and mail you what had been seen. So by the 1970s, hawk watching was becoming really popular and people were exploring new potential sites. Some of them were just active for a season or two. There was a lot of exploration and it really exploded, especially in the Northeast. The 1980s, Golden Gate Raptor Observatory was formed. They started counting. 1986 is when Hawkwatch International formed, so there was just a lot of exploration happening in the West throughout the 80s. And Veracruz in Mexico, that sees the most raptors on our continent, was got started in the mid 90s. And this was a very important site because, you know, for some species, the bulk of the world population of these species goes right overhead, right over this site. So this is an incredibly important site. And then something big happened. We went from those green sheets to a computer. In 2000, we transitioned from collecting and storing from paper forms to fully electronic data collection and this archiving system called HawkCount. So some of you might be familiar with HawkCount. It's pretty neat. You can go to hawkwatching.org and find a site near you. You can look up details, site information about any hawk watches, look at their data, you know, going back almost 100 years, really, for Hawk Mountain, sites like Hawk Mountain. And anyone can use the information. It's free. There's no advertising. It's restricted only according to the wishes of the contributors who own the data. So HMA doesn't own any of the data, but if researchers would like to use it, they write to me, and then I get permission from the sites and they can use it. We get a lot of data requests from universities, from students, from professional researchers who want to use these data in their research, which is great. That's why we collect it. And hawkcount.org has also been a foundational piece for the raptor population index, which I'll talk about in a couple minutes. And that is an effort to figure out really how raptor populations are doing based on all this data. So I pulled up Pennsylvania here from HawkCount. And you guys take the cake for the highest number of sites in any state by far. So I listed the sites on the right here that are active. And there's over 40 sites that are in HawkCount with data. And I think about half of them, 20 of them are active, have collected data in the last year or two. So that's pretty phenomenal. That's a lot of just amazing data that your state is contributing. And if you go into site profiles on HawkCount, you can just see maps. You can see what years they were collecting data. Was it hourly? Was it daily totals they were collecting? You can see all these interesting statistics about when birds move and their, you know, the window in which they're when they fly, and, you know, big days over the years. It's just a treasure trove of information, really. Site coordinator information if you want to contact someone or find directions to a site. And then you can print out these summaries too, which are pretty handy if you wanted to take this with you, or you were visiting a new site and you wanted to see, you know, when's the best chance for me to see you know, rough legs. So you can plan your trips using some of this information in here. We don't have a headquarters, as I said, but we do offer a lot of educational materials to the public, to Hawkwatch sites to share. So we have a lot of that on our website. We have a junior Hawkwatcher program that we recently updated, which is for kind of elementary, middle school age kids. I have loads of those. If anybody is a teacher or wants to share them with young people, they're free. I will mail them out to anybody if anyone's interested. And we have the Michigan Raptor Migration Teaching Network. This is a grant just for the state of Michigan, where we've been connecting with lots of teachers, doing a lot of raptor education and getting them to visit schools throughout the state and learn about raptors. And this here is the Junior Hawkwatcher Guide. that we've just updated. And it was this grant is through the Meyer Foundation out in Michigan. We do offer tours, raptor themed tours. As I mentioned, some are photography based. This was out in Duluth, Minnesota a few years ago. But we like to travel during the migration season. We do winter raptors too, down south in the tropics or in Florida. We like to visit a lot of hawkwatch sites. Veracruz we go to every couple of years. Spain for migration. And this coming year, September, October, we're offering our Golden Eagle tour to Montana. If anybody's interested, you can go to hawkmigration.org and check it out. It's going to be fun. This is a site hiking up to the Bridgers and the Big Belt where they see, hundreds of golden eagles a season. And there's also time spent in Yellowstone to see some impressive megafauna and things like prairie falcons and ferruginous hawks. And I want to go. I want to go on this tour. Oh, and they go to a banding station, so you get to see some golden eagles up close, hopefully. Just a couple other events that HMA offers. We have International Hawk Migration Week every year, and this is in the fall, and it's just an opportunity to shine a light on all the hawkwatches doing amazing work. So we offer banners, free weatherproof banners for any sites that are interested, and often they'll have festivals or hawk ID workshops and things like that during this week. And we chose this week because this is the biggest week for hawk count. This is when most of the biggest numbers roll into hawk count, with millions of raptors being tallied. And it's always a great opportunity to connect young people with raptors. This on the right here was a release bird. We work with a local rehabber, raptor rehabber, who always gives us a few birds to release, and kids get to see them up close, which is fun. Our winter raptor survey program, that's a whole separate database from our hawk count database. So this is encouraging people to take road surveys and just do them once or twice, the same routes year after year by car, and keep track of raptors that you see. So we have a growing database for this program. If anybody's interested, you can check it out on our website, and that runs December through February. And we have a couple grants that we offer each year. Our Hawkwatch Fund grant helps sites purchase binoculars for the public and things like that, interpretive signs, repairing platforms. And our research award is more research based. So, this past year it supported some broad-wing hawk telemetry, red-tailed hawk telemetry, things like that. And this is Raptorathon season right now. This is our big spring event, a lot like a birdathon. So just heading out for a day of birding, finding sponsors or pledges, trying to count as many birds all together or raptors that you want to. And this is great. So 50% of what teams raise supports our programming, and then 50% goes back to the sites. And that is how they purchase t-shirts or hire counters or, purchase binoculars, things like that. So this for a lot of Hawkwatch sites, this is the one fundraiser they have all year. And then our Lunch and Learn program is some of you might be familiar with. This was just our monthly presentation series in a way to feature different raptor researchers and educators and different profile different Hawkwatch sites. And it's just a Zoom talk like this one. People get together on a Wednesday called our Lunch and Learn. It's always at noon. And these are all recorded, so these are on our website at Hawk Migration. If you're ever interested in just going to our site and seeing if there's any recorded talks you want to watch. Raptor road trips are a big part of my work, or maybe not as big as I want it to be. It's my favorite um, thing about my job is just heading out to sites and connecting with hawk watchers and hearing how things are going and what if what their challenges might be, what's going well, what they need help with. So this was at Tussey Mountain a couple years ago, and I try to make it out to maybe 5 or 10 sites every year. It's getting harder to hit all the close ones. I'm going to have to start taking planes to make it to some of these sites because I've been to, I don't know, maybe 100 or so. This was just a site or a visit down into the Carolinas a couple years ago. Hawk watchers are so wonderful, such wonderful people. I really enjoy spending time with them. And switching gears a little bit, I can talk about the RPI project. If you haven't been to the RPI website and you're wondering what we do with all these hawk numbers from Hawk Count, this is a great place to visit and check out. We have a new website. And as I said earlier, it's basically making sense of all these numbers. So not every Hawkwatch site that collects data will be part of RPI. It's just mostly our long-term data sets, sites like Hawk Mountain, and Wagner's Gap is another one. But in order to take part in RPI, sites need to follow a standardized protocol, and it could be our HMA protocol or a take on that. They need to have at least 10 years of data and have at least 75% of the migration season covered. So just counting for the bulk of the spring or fall season, really. And some sites are new. We run this analysis every like 3 years or so. And some sites are just getting to that 10-year mark, which is really exciting. So at this point, we have 80 something sites involved in RPI, and that number is just going to grow. So this is the homepage of our website, and we have trend graphs, maps, and species assessments. What's new is this raptors at risk and raptors on the rise. And we have an analysis that we've actually made through 2024 data, but it is not up on our website yet. The analysis is done, and we're just waiting on some last minute details to try to work out our pie charts and our trend graphs. So I'll show you a few of the trend graphs for some of these species, but some of them just go through our last analysis, which was 2019. But it's for 28 raptor species, and analyzing these long-term data sets, we're able to come up with kind of generalizations for what species we feel are doing well versus not doing well. And we kind of pair this together with Christmas bird count data, because migration is kind of one piece of the puzzle. You've got, breeding bird data that can tell you a lot, and then wintering data as well. So we do use Christmas bird count data. So these species in red or orange, the red research and conservation priority group was determined for those species that show the highest proportion of declines during migration counts and the CBC winter surveys. And this orange priority level was for the species that are approaching the highest proportion of declines during migration counts or CBCs. So this kind of gives you kind of a snapshot of which species we're most concerned with. Red-tailed hawks and Cooper's hawks, I'll mention. Um, they've have generally declined on migration counts, but have also been shown to be increasing during wintering surveys in northern states. So red-tailed hawks um, have been shown to be short stopping or shifting their wintering range. So we suspect species like red tails and Coopers, even though it looks like they're declining on some of our migration data, they're most likely changing their migration behavior. So it's kind of, it's tricky. Migration's giving us a piece of the puzzle, and we have to kind of weigh that with everything else and try to figure out what are the contributing factors. But sharp shins, I can show you a few graphs here. These pie charts are interesting. They just kind of break it down. The one on the left is showing all of North America. And then you have the next one is the East, the Central, the Gulf, the West, because with RPI, it's easier if we break things regionally. So just to give you an idea. So with sharp shins here, you can see there's a lot of declines there in the East. The states that are shaded red that's the CBC data showing a decline. The green is CBC increasing. And you might have to, in order to see the key there, you might have to change your screen view a little bit. I can't, it's kind of hidden underneath everybody's picture, but the downward arrows show a decline. Green arrow up is increasing. And if you see a blue dot, that's just meaning that it's stable at that particular site. So some interesting graphics. I think it's kind of, we found a nice way to portray what we're seeing. And over the last 20 years, sharp shins counts have been declining almost at 50% of sites. And so this is ranked as the most declined species of the 27 raptor species counted. So lots of probably habitat loss in the boreal forest, loss of prey species, environmental contaminants most likely, which is contributing to many raptor declines. West Nile virus, maybe there's probably a lot going on with Sharpies, but that's one of the most concerning ones. And this is one of the trend graphs that we have. I won't bore you too much. I hate statistics, and I don't run this analysis. Thank goodness that Birds Canada, one of our partners, is the one to do the analysis. But just pay attention to that orange line. It'll kind of give you an idea of over the years how these raptors are doing. I just want to show you a snapshot of a few per species. This is down in Virginia, Kip to Peak on the coast, and you can see their numbers have been really steadily declining for sharp shins. And then this is a new graph. We haven't yet got it on the website, and so it's kind of blurry. It hasn't. I just pulled this from our raw data, but I just wanted to show you this interesting trend graph for sharp shins, because this is almost really 100 years of sharp shin data, which is incredible that we've been collecting data that long. Harriers are another species that we're concerned with. A lot of habitat loss throughout its breeding range. You can see in the map, a lot of declines are centered around the Great Lakes and the East. And I featured a couple Pennsylvania sites here, this decline in Rose Tree Park. And I think that was the only one I had for that one. Kestrels, again, are showing a decline. There's been a little bit of hopeful news with kestrels in the last 10 years, it seems. 74% of kestrel migration counts across North America suggest a stable population for the 10-year trend that was 2009 through 2019. Most of the declines are in the east. Winter survey data from the CBC shows stable 10-year trends. So I don't know. We've been watching a slow decline in kestrels for many, many years. That's nothing new. But we are seeing a little increase in some areas. So more research is certainly needed. I know that Pennsylvania, there's a strong kestrel nest box monitoring program where you guys are. I know there was a recent study out of Hawk Mountain, if anybody read that, how the young seem to be having pretty high success rates when they fledge. But I think the adult mortality rate is pretty high. So they're thinking maybe collisions, entrapments with adults could be one of the main concerns. But kestrels are certainly not out of the woods yet. This is another trend from Rose Tree Park. I'm trying to squeeze a lot in here for different species, but ospreys were kind of on the increase for so long, together with bald eagles, just climbing at so many migration sites. And then we're starting to see some declines in the last 10 years. Sites like Quaker Ridge in Connecticut have had a big drop off. And mostly Appalachian and Great Lake area declines. They seem to be doing well in other regions. So this could be competition with bald eagles. That's one theory. And certainly environmental contaminants like mercury can affect ospreys for sure. I know there's been some concern around their prey, Saurus menhaden, around Chesapeake Bay. There's been a lot of failed nests in that area. So it will be very interesting to see what happens with osprey in the coming years. We're going to be watching that very closely. This is data from way back, starting in 1976, showing osprey growth hasn't been affected, no decline there. At Hawk Mountain, you can see just inland that strong decline. This is just through 2019, but it just continues downward since then. And then Quaker Ridge, that site in Connecticut, this is one of the other sites that have seen the strong decline. Merlin is a species that I will just touch on that seem to be doing pretty well. They are considered to be stable, and you can see a few declines here in the east, but overall stable, and I know they're increasing where I am here in New England. Lighthouse Point showing kind of a stable trend. And this is Tadoussac. They see a lot of merlins up in Quebec. Great population growth there. So other species, before I jump into that are stable. Golden eagles are considered more or less stable. Broadwing hawks, red-shouldered hawks. And then that brings us to raptors on the rise, and these four peregrines, bald eagles, turkey vultures, black vultures, and the dark green shows that lowest proportion of declines for CBC and migration count, and the light green is, approaching the lowest proportion of declines. So there's a lot more information on this on the RPI website if you want to take a look and really dig into a particular site or region. But peregrines are just a great conservation success story since the DDT era, and a lot of blue dots and green arrows. There are some declines here in the east, here and there, but overall increasing. This is Hawk Mountain data showing being the increase there. Cape May, New Jersey, and bald eagles. It's amazing how many people see bald eagles now. I'm sure it's the same down where you guys are too, but people who have never seen bald eagles, who, non-birders who aren't used to watching birds at all, are stopping me and telling me stories about all the eagles they see throughout the year. So it's great news. It's great to see how they've come back. And this is another one from Cape May, New Jersey, showing the growth of eagles over the years. Greenlaw Mountain, this is our furthest eastern site in North America, up in New Brunswick. And Hawk Mountain, this is from 1990, just a great climb. And broadwing hawk, this one is considered to be stable. This is a species that some of you might be aware of the efforts to track this through Hawk Mountain with the telemetry study that's been phenomenally successful in learning about their migration ecology, where they're heading, where they winter, the routes they take. And so there's a few declines you see kind of in Appalachians there, but overall, they're considered to be stable. They're stable in Texas and Veracruz, which are the important sites that monitor the bulk of the whole world population. So when those sites have stable numbers, that's good news. So this is Allegheny Front, Pennsylvania. This is their fall data here, showing stable Hawk Mountain graphs. I think that's it for graphs. I hope nobody fell asleep. But overall, I think threats to raptors, it can be very complex when you're trying to figure out what it is affecting raptors. There's so many threats they have to worry about. I'd say habitat loss and forest fragmentation probably being the biggest concern. But all of these things really can really add up. Bird flu is becoming more and more concerning the more we learn about it and affecting a lot of raptor species. For RPI, where we're headed, we need to get the current trends up online. The RPI committee, which is Hawkwatch International, HMA, Hawk Mountain, and Birds Canada, those are the 4 partners, and everybody's been so busy with their own research that we haven't gotten these trends up, but we need to get the newest analysis up. We're always excited to expand coverage and bring new sites into the RPI project so we can learn, as much as we can. And we are also working on a few publications. There's a Kestrel paper coming out pretty soon based on RPI data. And we just really need to get this information in the hands of decision makers, state planning, state of the birds reports. It's a tough time right now in our country for conservation and for birds. And we're going to do everything we can to try to get this information out there and used because birds need our help more than ever right now. So if you're interested in checking out our website, it's hawkmigration.org. It was HMANA.org, and that URL still does work, but we're officially hawkmigration.org. Consider joining us as a member. It's a great way to support raptors, or you can sign up to receive our journal, which is a lot of flyway reports, what birds are being seen throughout the different regions, events that are coming up, and different, we feature different research efforts. So it's kind of a fun journal, and we offer it online as well. And there's lots of merchandise, fun merchandise on our website, hats and t-shirts and Raptor cards for your Raptor loving friends, lots of decals and educational materials like silhouette guides and laminated Hawk ID guides and DVDs for Hawk ID, things like that. So I think that is about it. I have our three websites up here if anybody wants to check them out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.